Find out about 3 plays or whatever skill set matchups that they do with Mike Norvell's approach to the spring game, that it's really not that fun. It's really not that exciting or anything else. But you know what? You get to see the guys running out on the field, doing their thing in front of everyone with 15 total practices. This is the one that you get to see. So let's lock it in for some Florida State football talk right here at the voice of college football. And of course, the spring game, and we put that in quotes, is coming up on Saturday. We got Chris Frazier here up top next to me from Spearatics. Get on over there to Spearatics. Chris does a phenomenal job. We got Big Game James Coleman, Den Media Group, and we will be dropping that link as well as Spearatics because we want you guys to head on over to those 2 platforms and follow their work. We love having James here, as well as this stranger right here, Logan Robinson. Look at this, showing up this week. Good to see you, Logan.
Spring game week, got to be here no matter what. Actually have a little bit of football to talk about, like you were saying, Mark.
Nice.
It's a spring game, but might not be so exciting. But with all the fresh new faces and newcomers, transfers, freshmen, it will be a little fun. So excited to talk about that this evening.
Noel game day, folks, place to be as well. Tracking Florida State football with Logan and the rest of the crew there. And good news concerning offensive linemen. A starter from 2022, DMITRI EMMANUEL, Logan.
Yeah, this was some great news. We're waiting on this for a long while. Spring camp is about to wrap up, and they're going to have one last practice on Thursday. But luckily, Florida State was able to get some good news on Tuesday morning, which allowed DMITRI EMMANUEL to go full contact into practice on Tuesday. He's a guy going in the 7th year of college ball, played at Charlotte. Also, strong ties with Atkins, obviously, off of that, and then played last year coming in his first year and starting on that offensive line. But one of the most consistent players, I think, up front for Florida State, and he helps a ton in the run game, something Florida State, Mike Norvell, we know he likes to do. With that running back room, they want to always have that run game going, and DMITRI EMMANUEL helps a ton in that regard. And now, I keep on seeing depth. This is great for depth and definitely great for depth, but this is your starter. I don't, I understand you brought in some transfers. You got Casey Roddick. It's really 2 guys, Casey Roddick, and then Keandre Jones from Auburn. Those guys are your inside guys, and they're kind of tooling around with what they want to do with Casey at center or guard. Jeremiah is a tackle, so he's out of this conversation. But, DMITRI EMMANUEL, that's his spot to lose. I don't expect him to lose it. So you're getting your starter back from last year, going into his 2nd year of the inside of the system with Coach Atkins. Phenomenal news. What exactly? We saw some reactions from Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis obviously very happy, but then also that running back room should be even more happy because that's going to open up some holes, and we saw that happen last year. So just beefing up, that helps a ton. There's another waiver we're waiting on, and that's with Darrell Jackson, Miami defensive tackle transfer. I think there's some optimism around that to where he'll get that granted. There's a lot of good reasoning for him to receive that waiver, so you would like to have that hopefully by, earlier the better would be great. But we're going to see a lot of Darrell Jackson in this spring game on Saturday, and he's going to flash in front of some people, and they're going to wonder who was in that number 14, and that's going to be Darrell Jackson. So we're waiting on the waiver there, but good news, 1 out of 2 has hit for the Seminoles, and DMITRI EMMANUEL back for another season going into his 7th year of college ball.
James, are you familiar with this waiver process? Is this pretty much a rubber stamp, or is this an actual thing that's meaningful, or is there any kind of educated guess that can be placed on what is being evaluated that's meaningful here?
Well, the DMITRI EMMANUEL one was kind of like up in the air. Like, he was injured, and then they have to grant, because you said it was the 7th year of eligibility?
7th year, and was also hurt for a year at Charlotte. So a lot of different things everywhere.
So it's basically another med red, and those are always dependent upon who gets the paperwork and what their day was like that day for them to be able to stamp that. The Jackson one is going to be interesting because he's already burned his initial transfer. He went from Maryland to the University of Miami. Now there are exceptions to the second waiver to get you immediate eligibility. That's when you have you could face some discrimination. I don't think he got that, but you have somebody back at home that's sick that definitely gets you the ability to be able to do that. And I believe there's some things with his mom. I won't get too deep into that could make somebody want to get home. And I think Miami will probably aid in that as well, especially with it being in conference. There's like a double thing that you kind of got to go through right now. So, but I'm pretty sure they feel very confident that typically the only way it wouldn't happen is if the school that you transfer from really fights. And I don't think it's Miami got a lot going on for them to try to fight this transfer. I think that they feel confident they'll get it.
Yeah, and then to keep in mind when he entered the transfer portal, the new rules they had not dropped yet as far as that goes. So now what he's basing his entire hopefulness on, the only reason that they would approve it for him to be eligible immediately is based off of his mother's illness. She lives in Quincy, so it's a lot closer to Tallahassee than Miami. So the transfer, there's definitely merit there. I personally don't believe he'll have a problem getting it, even though he did transfer from Maryland to Miami. And so it was already granted once, but it wasn't granted for the same reason. So the reason that he's transferred this at this point is for a completely different reason. So I personally think that they'll approve it, and I could be completely wrong, but I think there's a lot of questions to be answered on the NCAA side because they've been approving guys on other teams for a lot less. They didn't have good reason, not as good as this. So I personally think that you stay positive, and I would expect the best in the situation. And then they've already showed favor with Emmanuel, which is great. And a little bit of context on Emmanuel is because what a lot of people were asking is, what are we doing with a seventh-year tackle? What do we need that for? And has he not gotten good enough to go on to the pros? It's not always necessarily are you not good enough. It's being able to stay on the field, availability, not ability. His abilities are great. His availability has been the problem. So now that he's available, you obviously want to keep him as Florida State goes. Then he obviously wants to showcase his talent so that he can move up to the next level. I guess the strange part is only because he starts. The good part of it is for Florida State's not so much that he's going to be in that position, but a lot of these transfers are going to get to figure out exactly what it is that Alex Atkins wants, because this young man's played for him not only here at Florida State, but also played for him in Charlotte, so he can be that voice in that room. This is what Atkins wants to see. This is what you need to be doing. This is how you move up, etc. So I think it's more important for the locker room to get Emmanuel back than it is anything. Not that he's not a great talent on the field, but I look at him as a complete player, whether it be on the field or off.
Talking Florida State football with all of you here, the voice of college football. It's every Wednesday, 6 Eastern, and it only happens because these three show up. Chris Frazier next to me, Spear Addicts, Big Game James Coleman, Sports Den Media Group, of course, on YouTube, and Logan Robinson, Noel Game Day. James, I got to lead off with you because you've got the patented hilarious line about what this spring game practice scrimmage, whatever it is, concerning whatever this is, a sixth grade graduation and all of that. Are you going to be able to tell anything about anyone? Is anything going to be meaningful out there for you?
Anybody who can, anybody can do anything. Is no disrespect to Logan. Logan, them guys do good work over there. But FSU media will make a week's worth of content out of this now. Meaningless content, but content nonetheless. I mean, you'll have guys like last year. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, Jordan Travis can't throw the ball. His arm is weak." Meanwhile, if you step foot in Doak, it's like a windstorm in there. Like, I'm like, it wasn't very optimal conditions, but people will make what they want to make, and they'll make excuses for the people they like, and they'll destroy the people that they don't. But I think most of the decisions will be made Friday. I personally believe, whether the players and the coaches know it or whatever, most of the guys know what the depth chart is going to be. You know what they're going to do. This is your chance, as I said. This is Easter. We just had Easter. So this is Easter speeches. There aren't any good Easter speeches for kids. If you really go back and think about it, it's for grandma who came out of town. It's for the kids, or like I said, kindergarten graduation. The guys who will never really play in the game, their parents get a chance to watch them take some snaps. Everybody will cheer. They'll take pictures and they'll love life. But really, it's a showcase. It's not even a scrimmage anymore. And it's really going to be put in situational. It's a situational scrimmage at best. So, and it's going to be documented. Last thing we need is everybody being able to break down our defense and our offense and be able to say, hey, we got some free reps. It's cheap football, and I think fans should enjoy it. But the real plays and the real positions were changed, and the real things were challenged during the week in practice and in scrimmages.
I told somebody the other day, I said, if I was going to a spring game as a fan, the only spring games I've ever been to were as media. Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, when I was covering those three teams. Only spring games I've ever been to, never as a fan. But the first thing I would look at would be the weather forecast. If it's going to be 75 and sunny, absolutely, let's go to the spring game, hang out, have a good time. If I miss 3 plays in a row, who cares? But like the Michigan spring game a couple of weeks, it's 38 and spitting rain. I want no part of that. We're not watching football here, So your thoughts, Chris, what are you looking out for? Anything? I guess we just killed any kind of preview as to anything being real out there, but we keep it authentic. Whatever it is, that's what we're going to talk about.
James does it on my show all the time, so I'm used to having to come back around to what could be important. Me personally, I'm excited to see Brock Glenn and AJ Duffy personally, because we've gotten very little from AJ. We don't know exactly what he can and can't do, other than when you get to go watch it in practice. Like Logan has seen more of what AJ can do than myself. I haven't been to a practice this year. And James has seen more of what they can do than me as well. So what I'm looking for is what those two gentlemen are able to stir up, because Mike Norvell recently had made a comment about what Brock Glenn was doing and how well he was catching on to the entire playbook, and just how he was able to keep himself calm during the situation. So me personally, I want to see what Brock Glenn's got. It lets me know quarterback-wise, is there really going to be a competition? Are we really pushing each other? Is there really a question about QB2? And I think in the showcase, I don't think anybody should get it mixed up. Like, I think these quarterbacks with an actual fan base around, even though it is a spring showcase, they're going to want to show out. They're going to want to try to prove their point. So you could see something exciting, in my opinion, like the catch that we saw from, who was it? Last year's spring game, someone made it a phenomenal catch. And it's exciting enough that it was worth it. I mean, they're not asking for an arm and a leg to go to these spring showcases. It's $19. So it's not like you're killing yourself to go. It's more about going and fellowshipping with, like at the tailgates, like what Logan brought up earlier. That's what it's about. And then James is 100% correct. It is for the guys that probably never take a snap this year, for the majority. But you never know. Maybe when the lights are on and the crowd's around, they'll see something out of that player that they haven't seen in practice. And maybe it gives them an opportunity to be in the depth chart. You never know.
One of the things that I wanted to see most recently, so this would have been 2 years ago for any spring game, and I try to cover all of them. I'm even watching NC State last week. Was watching James' favorite, I can never think of his name, but Mackenzie Milton 2 years ago, because of what he was coming off of, and thinking, I want to see if there's any indication whether this guy is the dude that threw 35 or 40 touchdown passes, or he's never going to be that guy. Well, we kind of got a little bit of both. I wasn't able to tell definitively. Looked good at times, didn't. Then what was it? The Notre Dame opener, he kind of saved the team and looked like it might be a fairy tale story, but that quickly proved not to be the case. Logan, what are you looking out for?
I think, Chris was saying at quarterbacks, I want to keep a close eye on AJ Duffy. I think Norvell is going to give a lot of time to him. We'll see a little bit of Jordan Travis, but the rest should be heavily set on the guys behind him with Rodemaker, AJ Duffy, and Brock Glenn. And I'm specifically just going to be looking at AJ Duffy in this one. I want to see if he's going to take those strides, because he has to. He needs to. It's mandatory at this point that we should see growth. We saw a little bit of it during practices, but then you also see the true freshman in himself last year, and you see, okay, well, you had a nice first scrimmage, heard a lot of good things out of that. You were the best quarterback in the room, not counting Jordan Travis, who wasn't participating, but still, AJ Duffy led that quarterback room in the first scrimmage, and the second one was kind of not so pretty for a majority of the quarterbacks. Jordan Travis doing his thing, but it wasn't the prettiest thing. I got to see AJ Duffy make that next step to make it interesting for Tate Rodemaker to push himself to get better. You feel good with your backup situation, but still, you would love to have AJ Duffy push up there and battle a tiny little bit there with Rodemaker. Would be nice, and I'm hoping that's what we'll see a little bit of during the spring showcase on Saturday afternoon. And I think a couple of players that, people are going to wonder, whoa, who the heck is wearing these numbers? I think 19 with Vondravius Jacobs is going to be a guy that's going to flash. He's been doing it all consistently throughout camp. And then I think Darrell Jackson, the Miami defensive tackle transfer, is going to be someone that they're going to write down his number, his jersey number after Saturday, just because of what he's been able to do during the spring thus far. Those two have probably been one of the more consistent guys. We already know about Jared Verse. We don't need to get answers about Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson. You got to see. I would like to see some answers and some stuff from Keziah Holmes. He's a guy that, yeah, he's got the athletic abilities, but I want to see it in a game type scenario. This is the closest we're going to get before Florida State goes out and faces against LSU to kick off 2023. What are you about, Keziah? What are you about? Are you going to come in here and replace what Trayshawn Ward had? Are you going to be able to have the versatility like Trayshawn? Because I think that's going to be one of the biggest question marks going into 2023 is you lost a really talented running back. There's a reason why Trayshawn Ward got picked up quick out of that transfer portal, and was hearing from a lot of teams, including the SEC, for his abilities. And he's going to go over there and start for Kansas State next season. But are you about that action, Keziah? And I'm interested to see how he looks in the system, as close as I can get to a game type scenario. And it's, a little bit different than how Jimbo ran his deal, and Willie, you're not getting a straight up garnet and gold game. There's going to be ones versus ones, twos versus twos, and then you're going to see threes versus threes. And it's going to be kind of a variety of things. And you'll get some special teams here and there. And then you're going to also have some of the guest coaches come in and call a couple of drives. So it's not a strict on, let's look at the score, who's going to win this, or you're not picking your players before the game starts. There's got to be some guys that we want to get some answers from. And, I want to see Dre. I want to see Darrell Jackson. And I definitely got to see something from Keziah Holmes if he's ready to step into that next role, because I'll be honest with you, there's too many running backs. There's too much talent there. And if there's going to be that room is going to be fighting for a lot of playing time in 2023. And I'm interested to see if they're all going to stick around, but Holmes has to be one of those. He transferred from Penn State to do this. Let's see if he's ready to take the next step.
I'm expecting to see one of you three as a guest play caller here at some point here soon.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. No interest.
No interest out of you. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
But there's also, for fans though, there will be a game that is going to be really serious. It'll be halftime. It's the alumni flag football game. I won't be participating in that either, but there's going to be some old heads that want to be able to show people that they still got it a little bit. So there'll be a little bit of competition in between the intermission when it comes to that. So that'll be fun. But even going to what Logan said, I do want to see how I haven't seen Akeem really since the first week, and he was out of shape a lot. So I am interested to see how some of those young guys do spark and compete. Rodney Hill, another guy who shined very well in practice. But it'd be because what I will say is that maybe those 2s and 3s will be a little bit more important than normal, because we are 4 scholarships over. So, somebody's got to go home. Somebody's not coming back. They got to give the freshmen their chance to come in. But so it may be I don't want anybody from the running back room to leave, but I'm looking at running back, maybe pruning the D line even more, and potentially another wide receiver. They gotta come from somewhere. So, but you know for a fact, and that's if you don't see anybody else in the transfer portal that you like, you know you have to get rid of 4. 5 if the Destyn Hill news is true.
Yeah, there's a question on here from Monray, our guy over there from YouTube, asking about Winston Wright, and that's probably one too that, you know, I'm still way 50-50 on this. I'm not concrete whatsoever that we'll see Winston Wright fully healthy for the 2023 season yet. I see him in practice, and, you know, that's the perks of being able to be at them. You get to see the true what's going on and whatnot, and luckily he's been participating. But game type scenario, it's a little bit different.
I think that's actually Winston Wright's twin brother or something that Montrey's talking about there, Weston Wright, that he's asking about.
Close to it. But yeah, someone we've got to watch on, like what James was saying, you know, that wide receiver room. You lose Ontario Wilson, someone's got to step up to the plate. You're not going to have Micah Pittman this spring. You're hoping that you'll be able to have him at some point next season, you know, midpoint, you know, just looking at the timetable of what he's got to go through recovery wise. But, you know, you would love for Winston Wright to be able to, it's all about health. We already know it's talent abilities, but it really is legitimately all about, is he a full go? Is he going to be a good go? And if he's not, then he's, you know, you're not going to see him out on the field. And I'm hoping that we do see a full burst of Winston Wright. And it's a little bit different, man, when you're cutting like that and the situation and injury that he had to go through. I don't know. We're gonna find out though. I don't think we're gonna fully find out on Saturday, but we're gonna get a little taste of what Winston Wright looks like. If he's 75% or is he 95%? It's just that is a major question mark for me, and I don't think anybody should believe right now that it's concrete that we'll see Winston Wright playing fully next season.
And, you know, another one and it depends on what scenarios are set up. I want to see how Coop's doing in the safety position. I mean, it's not that he's never been there. It's just the fact of he's mainly your main guy this season so far. So I'm extremely, I don't want to say excited because I don't know what it looks like. I know that I had issues with some of the ways that he did that position before. That's why he got moved around. But I'm hoping that he's kind of gotten completely out of his own way because I think it was all mental. So I'm excited to see what he does in the safety position. And Winston Wright is definitely someone that if they are not ready to go, could be somewhat of a stinger because you're completely right. With losing Ontario Wilson, you need that guy, and Winston is like the closest thing I think that we have to it. And if he's not a full go, you kind of lose out on him. And I mean, then I guess you go to Douglas, which Douglas is good at times. We don't see him as much. And James says us a lot like about Kalen DeLoach. Kalen DeLoach didn't just get like 5 times better. He just finally got the opportunity to play. So maybe that's all Douglas needs. I'm not sure, but I am indefinite worried about our slot receiver. Like, what are we going to do if Winston's not ready to go?
You know, ever since this team went from being pretty bad to pretty good or maybe really good, and that happened pretty quickly because they closed out at 5-7, then all of a sudden they're 4-0, then they kind of went through a bit of a lull, faced the better part of the schedule, and then they rip off 6 consecutive wins. And I don't think most of college football realized all of a sudden, okay, Florida State's back to being pretty good out of nowhere, although we all saw it coming to some extent. So they finish off at 10-3. And now what's been one of our big talking points this offseason is going obviously from being a really good team to winning the ACC, to challenging for a playoff. And one of the big upgrades needed there is depth. So when you look at offensive line where you need depth, defensive line where you want to rotate guys in, when you look at different packages, you need to play on defense for the passing game and for passing downs, and you want to have confidence in those nickel backs and so forth. How close do we think we are? And in terms of having enough quality players in those depth type positions where you need layers of players?
Starts in the trenches, in my opinion. That's offensive line is set now. Depth wise, defensive line, I think you're waiting on a few answers from some of the young bucks, but you feel optimistic there. And kind of be more cautious with it this year just because of last year. And we thought, oh my goodness, that interior defensive line is going to rip everybody apart. But once Fabian Lovett went down, not the case. So, but I think trenches wise, that's where you feel really good about your depth. Your quarterback position is also really crucial. But the biggest question last year was if Jordan Travis can stay fully healthy, and he was able to play in every game. And that's why they were able to win 10 wins or get 10 wins. I think those are your most crucial points. Your edge is something that you're gonna have to find some answers on with Byron Turner behind Jared Verse and Pat Payton. You're gonna have to see how Gilbert Edmond also gets into this role with Coach Papuchis and Adam Fuller. That's probably a little concerning there. And you lost Jamie Robinson, so you look at safety like Chris was talking about earlier, and you're hoping Amarion Cooper is able to sub in, and depending on Travis J, what goes on there. But depth, there's still some work to be done in this. The season isn't starting tomorrow, though. There's going to be some attrition where it is going to allow you to go jump into that transfer portal where you can help that. So you're there. I think you're at the point where you can be able to fight against Clemson twice potentially this upcoming season, but there's still some areas of need that I think Florida State's going to look into the transfer portal for, because this is their time to make a run. It's not where you're going to do this next year. You're losing Jordan Travis, you're losing Jared Verse, you're losing Fabian Lovett, you're losing a lot of players, you're losing Trey Benson, losing a lot of players. You got to do it now, and if you're going to build depth, it has to happen this offseason. That's where the transfer portal is going to come in and play a big part. And I think
the schedule helps a lot, but I definitely think I always look at it like this. There are 85 scholarship guys. No team in the NCAA has 85 cats. Like, nobody's that good at recruiting. You're going to miss. But I would say your Georgias, your Alabamas, the guys who are going to consistently be there week in and week out, have between 75 and 80 that are on their roster. So that provides you the depth. I think we're probably about at that 60 to 65. I think our first string can compete with anybody in the nation. I think it's just, like, we have a lot of unproven still, which will make people feel good about the 2024 season if those unproven guys will be talked about in capacity. So, like, outside of LSU, Clemson, really outside of LSU and Clemson, if you're just looking at FSU's schedule, you should see a lot of these games should be able to get carried away relatively early. Who will be those number two guys? Like, will it be Fabian Lovett and Brandon Fisk being your primary D tackles, with Daryl Jackson coming in really wrecking shop? Will Josh Farmer take that next step? If they haven't, get nobody really talks about Ayo. Will he come in? Will Bishop Thomas? I think that's his name. The kid with one tooth. It got to be good if you only got one. If you're missing the tooth, we had an offer. Like, we need to know some of these guys' names. We need to hear about them. We need to see them causing havoc, so that, okay, Fabian left, Fisk leaves, but boom, you already know who's coming into place. The reason why Keziah Holmes and Rodney Hill need to have this year that they're having is because we already know what's going to happen with Trey Benson. You need him. He bounces, but if you feel more comfortable, if you know you have 600 or 700 yards and a player returning in Keziah Holmes. Same thing at wide receiver. Who will be the next guy to step up? And I think I talked about that a couple weeks ago, Mark, and I was saying, the question mark is, who are the guys that we're going to have legends. Peter Warrick will be at my tailgate. Snoop Menace will be at my tailgate. I was a kid watching these guys. I know their names because they made plays. Who will be those guys for my son and for other kids to be able to watch and say, I want to buy this guy's jersey in the 2024 season? We already know who some of the guys should be, but who's going to be the person that's going to benefit from the attention that Johnny Wilson's going to get? Same thing in the secondary. I think Shaheem Brown has basically locked down Jamie Robinson's old slot, but is Akeem Dent going to rise to the levels that he was his freshman year, where he led the league and led the nation in breakups dang near. Should have led him in interceptions. But will he get back to that? Can he stay healthy? Can Travis J get out of his own head and show us some stuff? Will the different moves? So it's a lot of guys that should be cats, but we're not sure. And that's kind of where, that's where recruiting comes in. And this is where I think development is key. And it's cool to recruit a bunch of 3-stars. But if those 3-stars in year 2 or 3 aren't performing on a certain level, then we got to clean it up, because we haven't really had that can't miss prospect at D tackle. We haven't had the only can't miss prospect we've had right now would be Akeem Williams, and then one was in the corner that didn't pan out. But we need more guys. That's the key.
And then a name that you bring up that I wonder if he stays with the program or not is Dennis Briggs Jr. And they moved him into the inside. So what is he going to do there? Or if we're starting to have issues on the defensive end because Edmond doesn't work out the way we thought, do we push Dennis Briggs back out to the outside? There's just question marks. And then you want to see Omar Graham Jr. perform well, which I believe that he will. I think he had a great true freshman year, and I've heard nothing but good things about him as far as practice goes, but there are question marks. And it's like we just had an episode on Sporadics about this, of how many did I think attrition-wise were going to leave. And I think it's somewhere between 9 and 12 that'll end up leaving the program. A lot of people think that's a big number for this year, but I think it's very possible, because there's a lot of guys here that if this isn't their year to make their name, next year it's too late, is how a lot of them are looking at it. So I think you see that 9 to 12 bounce out. So the question is what does Florida State need out of the transfer portal? And we've touched on those back and forth. Do you take one more wide receiver based off of what's going on with Winston? Do you take a safety because of the unsurety at that position? Do you take another D tackle because you're not sure what it's going to look like after year 1 goes down, or when he needs to even breathe? Do you take another linebacker because there's not a whole lot of depth at the linebacker position? So all of those questions come into play, and I think, one, you have to have quality come into the transfer portal in the first place. So it kind of, you have to navigate what comes into the portal best, and then you get to nitpick from there.
Our guy Monterey is asking about Travis J, if there's anything going on with him in regards to any reason to believe that he's taken a step forward or anything this spring.
I thought he had a solid start to spring just because he was getting more playing time because of Shaheem Brown not being fully healthy, and now he's a full go. So you were able to see Travis J in there quite a bit. And, I think there's some things can't talk about going on during practice and such, but I think we'll see. We'll get more of an answer after the spring with Jay, and not saying anything bad happened, but just gotta evaluate, and we'll see on Saturday, really, I guess you can say. But I think there was a nice start from Jay to start this spring. It's just, Shaheem Brown comes in and it changes up a little bit of your rotation, and they want to get Amarion Cooper a lot of playing time, but just the attitude that Jay has brought since not being able to play last year was really nice to see. But nothing too crazy to evaluate there. I don't want to BS you on anything. So, but we'll see if he's good, ready to roll on Saturday afternoon. That'll be something I'll be keeping an eye on for sure.
Rooney Knoll. Now, unless I'm missing something here, this seems like a kind of an outlandish idea, but go Knowles. Given the scholarship numbers and amount of talent on the team, would they bring Destyn Hill in as a preferred walk-on?
I doubt it's him, but here's the thing. It's not as outlandish as it would be a few years ago. You've got you have to be under 85. But now that the state of Florida has made the rule starting, I think July 1st, where schools can't actually help with in name, image, and likeness, and have a little bit of more of a relationship with some of these places, it's not out of the realm of possibility to see somebody getting a $24,000 or $36,000 a year get, and that's about what your scholarship would be. And I mean, your academic and your off-campus housing would be around those numbers. And the other stuff that I always joke with people about, what comes out of your scholarship when you're on full papers, and the only reason I know about this is my mom got an itemized tax thing, like when I was in college. So your airline travel, your food, when they do all of that stuff is included in your scholarship. Walk-ons get that though. So like, but that's not like a walk-on doesn't. So like they were going to pay for that anyway. So like I think if there's some guys that they feel are close enough, like, hey man, it's just not cutting it here, but we have this money to be able to give to you. I think there'll be that, but I don't necessarily think Destyn Hill's coming over from the boot to get that treatment. He's gonna probably, plus he'll be out of state tuition, so he's probably gonna want that full ride, so it's a little cheaper.
Folks,
if he's coming, because I'm still skeptical until I see it with my own eyes. I don't believe it.
Yep, wait and see.
Folks, we do this every Wednesday here at the Voice of College Football, FSU. So join us every Wednesday. Bring a friend or 2 or 50 with you next week. In the meantime, Chris on Spiratics, we will drop the link in the chat. Chris, let us know what you got going on there.
Well, tomorrow night we've got an episode. I'm not releasing what the episode is because I'm waiting to see if this particular young man's going to be on the show or not. If he's going to be on the show, then maybe it answers a lot of questions for folks that are asking about him. We just talked about him, so I will say I'm waiting on Destyn Hill to answer if he's going to come on the show or not. If he does, then we'll see what happens. I'm not going to ask him the questions I think people want me to, but I am going to ask him, is he fully expecting himself to be in Tallahassee on May 13th, which is the day that Florida State has said that he would be there. But I was asked by someone to do a complete episode about that, and I'm not doing it. And I told them I'm not doing it unless he comes on the episode himself, because I'm not putting words, even what I hear, out there, because I fully expected he would be here last year when they brought it up. He did not show up. So now you're doing this all over again without me seeing his mouth say it. I can't go down that road again. So if he wants to come on here and make it clear that he's coming, then he can. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. If he doesn't show up, or it's not that he's not going to show up. He has not answered whether he wants to do it or not. So if that's not what the episode's about, then it'll be about something else completely different. But tomorrow night at 7:30, there will be an episode. If it's not Destyn Hill, then it'll be a spring game preview, which is very similar to what we're doing here. Only I'm going to get in probably a whole lot of depth of who you need to watch out for if you're a fan, and who we're watching out for to show up. Because this is what the spring showcase means to me. While everybody's watching what's going on the field, I'm watching who's showing up recruit-wise. That's what I care about. What recruits are coming to sit in the stands or be on the sidelines. That's what matters. So the showcase it's great, and it's all that everybody wants it to be, I guess. But me, I want to know who's showing up. So everybody knows at the tailgate that's being put on in Lot 6 by James Coleman, myself, and CJ. The triple threat will be there, which is what we named them. That's Cam Davis, Luke Cromenhawk, and Camden Fryer. And then I've put out a list as many times as I could, because it keeps growing, on all the former Noles that are coming, a lot of 2013 guys. And then we've got some even older Noles that are coming. Dexter Carter and his son are going to be there. We offered Dexter's son He's a 2026 kid, so we offered him. He'll be there at the tailgate and also at the spring game. And then we've got a lot of recruits that are going to actually come to the tailgate. So if you would like to come to the tailgate, the ticket link is up on James's social or mine. Make sure you get a ticket. Come, bring Florida State memorabilia to get signed, because that's what all of these guys are expecting to be doing, is signing autographs. So hope to see everybody that wants to be there. Hope we see you there.
We have dropped a link to Spiritatics in the chat, so it's easy for you to get over there, bookmark it, and again, join Chris, regardless, Destyn Hill, no Destyn Hill, join Chris 7:30 on a Thursday night at Spiritatics. Same thing with James. We just dropped the link again here, Den Media Group. James, what you got going on?
Not much, man. I just got obviously the spring game. We did a show today about basically about Mark Taylor. The show's called Who is Roe? Who TF is Roe? I'm not worried about Mark Taylor. You guys go look for that. What I am worried about is who is Roe, because he keeps calling this guy Roe out. He sounds terrifying. But we as a group we raised about I just bought 150 tickets for the spring game. I partner with a group home, Boys Town in North Florida. They're going as well. We have a Pop Warner team, and then we have a 7-on-7 team that under 14 that we blessed with some tickets here. If anybody wants to help, you can always donate money for that. We'll buy more. People say they want to. I want the stands filled, so it's $10. It's about as cheap as you're gonna get to a game. And while I make my jokes about it, it's still some people, this might be the only way they'll be able to experience an FSU game. So that's why we do the tailgate. And I got a chance to talk. It was funny because I am the most collaborative person in social media. I don't mind. I'll go on anybody's show. I'll go anywhere. I go where I'm asked, is what I always tell people. So my boy called me P-Dub and was just like, hey, man, somebody asked me to come to this tailgate. What time I'm supposed to be at your tailgate? I'm like, Pete, go to that tailgate. Go to Battles Inn tailgate for them. They come on over to mine. We'll be there all day. We'll hang out. So it's just a good time. And, and James Wilder Jr., I want people to realize that we have a lot of no's that do good things, but James Wilder Jr. does a lot of stuff. I've been in his shoes before. And you're fronting your own money because you're just passionate. You're driving kids around and doing stuff. So a good portion of the proceeds that we make from this tailgate are going to go toward making sure he's able to continue to do the things that he does in the community. He's driving up some cute kids. I tell 8U football, like, they can go ask for money. Ain't nobody bothered by that. They're cute at that age. So they're going to go over there, run around, hang out. And that's another thing too. All the kids we buy tickets for the tailgate are fans for the game, are guests that come to the tailgate. And by the way, it is completely compliance proof. You have to have a ticket. Like, I can't let you if you got that band on your wrist, you got a ticket. So everybody gets a band. We just have to make sure they don't have the full college experience. We got to keep them away from a specific tent that is away from the food. So that tent is separated. So like we know who's going over there. So, but that's all we got, man. Just need people I would love to give $200 to people if I can get over 2,000 subscribers. If not, I'll just keep it. But that's about all we got.
See, I used to think that we were special here at the Voice of College Football to get the great James Coleman here every week, but he shows up anywhere for anybody. So, no, that's good. That's good. Logan, Noel Game Day. We've dropped the links of all these platforms in the chat, so you can bookmark Noel Game Day as well. Logan, what's going on there?
Well, we're having our show at 8 o'clock tonight. Going over the spring game, going to go over DMITRI EMMANUEL, kind of like what we discussed earlier, and got a big recruiting weekend ahead too. So our guy Destyn will run us through all of that and all the goodies there. And Austin, who covers and leads us on the basketball front, things are getting a little interesting now for Leonard Hamilton. I got a couple questions there on the future with this basketball program, because Florida State just lost their leading scorer, their young talented player. even though Florida State didn't have a good season last year, you're going to lose your top tier player like that in the transfer portal. That is no bueno. So got a lot to discuss on the basketball front of things. And we're going next weekend over to Orlando to support our good guy, Kenny Shaw, former 2013 national champion. Excited to go back to the camp. We went a couple of years ago and had a phenomenal time with some guys like Timmy Jernigan, Telvin Smith, Chris Thompson. I mean, almost everybody was there. Jameis Winston, of course, Dak Prescott. So Kenny Shaw does a phenomenal job, just like James Wilder Jr. does, who I think is also going to be there, but always love going out and doing what we can also to help, because they do a lot of stuff for us, coming on to our shows, coming on as guests, and doing it for free. So definitely want to give back on our side and also get out some good reach, because Kenny Shaw is good people. So excited for that next weekend. And one last thing, we had our show on Monday night with Brian Stork and Josue Matias. We were supposed to have Nick O'Leary on, but was dealing with some traffic coming from the Masters. As we know, the biggest thing on television whenever Florida State had a game was, Jack Nicklaus is, who that is his grandson. So he gets the plug to the Masters, but not the traffic wise. So wasn't able to get him on, but we had 2013 spring camp film, goal line, first team offense, first team defense going at it for about 2 hours. So that was a really fun discussion, getting the insides to that. And we haven't been shut down yet. So might have to do some more of those now with things being a little bit more relaxed, or I don't think Florida State really gives a damn about having Jimbo Fisher's camp film on anymore. So good times. That was a great show. That's on our YouTube channel at Noel Game Day. So see you guys tonight at 8.
Very cool. 8 o'clock tonight, guys, right here on YouTube, Noel Game Day. Joey Foster, West Virginia guy, George, Florida fan, Twisted Rooster, making rare appearances here. Appreciate you guys being here on the Voice of Cali Football as well. All right. I think we've done enough damage, unless there's anything we've missed. Nope. So it's Logan tonight at 8, Noel Game Day. It's Chris tomorrow, Spear Attic, 7:30 Eastern time. Get there. James, appreciate you. Thanks for doing this every week. We know you're busy. Chris, you as well. Thank you so much for all that you do. Logan, good to see you. Logan's missed like 3 times out of like 208, so I guess I'm not going to get too mad at him. But thanks for making the time. I know you got a ton going on.
Hey, I'm hoping the best and wishing the best for our friend Jason out there. I wish he could have came on here with us this week, because he would have given us a really good rundown. Even though the spring showcase is coming on, he would have given us a rundown on the schedule.
Yes, we would have been talking like week 10.
Yep. There would have been something about the ACC
game,
Oh yeah, there could have been something there, but hopefully we'll have him on in the coming weeks. That would be great to get a little return. I think that's how it should be. Don't have to have, week to week Jason is different than maybe once a month Jason, or once every few months Jason. You never know. So maybe we can get him back on here to pick his brain on a few things. He's got something to talk about.
Jason of the one-time perfect record that he used to boast about. But we appreciate Jason as well. All right, everyone. We'll see you back here next Wednesday at 6 Eastern for FSU Live.